Hey guys, it's your boy Tips to Mizo, and today, well, guys, let me tell you why I'm back first. Guys, I know I haven't uploaded in a couple months, and I know it's been a while, but guys, I'm back, and I'm back to stay this time. I know y'all don't really care about this. You're here to hear my story. Well, not my story, someone else's story, but it's a good story, guys. But guys, without further ado, let's get started. Reset by Amostic Optimistic. Link in the description. Something was off today. Sam had lay in his bed for a few moments, trying to figure out what it was that felt so wrong. His room looked the same as it always did, even in the dark. He was still a skeleton. They were underground. He got up, switching the light button off of his alarm as he did so. He didn't know why he kept setting it. He rarely slept anyways. And heading over to the room next door, ever so carefully, he opened the door and peeked in. He was greeted by light snores and extended by the occasional "Nah," and the lights from the hall showed a pair of bony feet sticking out of the edge of the mattress. Aside from needing a bigger bed, everything seemed fine in Papyrus's room. He shut the door and then let his little brother sleep. Then he headed back to his room. The wrongness had subsided a bit, and he couldn't remember what his worry had been. Maybe I had a bad dream. He shook his head and opened the curtains. Room filled with red light from the core. Well, time to get ready to be a judge. Nah, he should be more grateful about this. This gig really wasn't all that bad. It got him and Papyrus a free room and board, protection of King Asgore, and hopefully a good view from when the seal was eventually broken. He got all by taking out some jerk who came at him with a frying pan. So what if the hours were terrible and there was more waiting than action? Papyrus was taken care of and safe as anything out here, not to mention how much he loved helping with the puzzles. And Sans? Well, Sans had something to do when he got back to the surface. Still, he'd be absolutely lying if he said it wasn't a little exciting seeing that weird flower when he entered the last corridor. Hands in his pocket, he walked over to it with a small frown. He crouched down to study it curiously. It looked like the ones Asgore grew in his throne. But how could it have gotten all the way out? Howdy! Sans jumped to the greeting, nearly falling over. The flower laughed at the skeleton coffin. Golly, I sure didn't spook you, did I? It asked, a small smile appearing on the center of its petals. Sans looked down at it for a moment, then let out a little laugh. You know what? You did. Nice work, he said. He was sticking his hand back in his pocket. So how did you end up here, little guy? This isn't actually a high-traffic area for monsters. Oh, I'm not a monster. I'm a flower. The flower turned back. Flowey the flower. And I've been here loads of times. Sans' bony brow frowned. Really? He was sure he'd remember seeing a talking flower around here. He crouched down to be on the Flowey's level. So, what are you doing here today? Flowey gave him a big grin. I'm gonna see Asgore. Ah, an Asgore fan. They got plenty of those in here. Still, most never get past the entrance. He should probably tell Undyne to give the guards a little more training. Sandy gave an apologetic smile. Sorry, Butto. I can't let you in to see him after the last human's visits are appointment only. He stood up. But you know what? Since you went through all this trouble, I go tell him and see if we can sort something out. Wait right here. He turned to walk away to go to the throne, but he was stopped by something wrapping around his ankle and pulling him back. This isn't a request, you idiot. Sans whipped his head around. Flowey's face had changed from a cute smile to a horrific grin. It laughed. You look surprised every time. Gosh, it's the same you can't remember. Every what? Sam shook his head and tugged his foot from Flowey's fine eyes, glowing blue. I'd really suggest now if you don't want to have a bad time, I'll risk that right now. Flowey snapped. The last you could do is be creative. The least you could do is be creative. What? It took all of his training to keep his focus on the threat rather than the nonsense. Flowey was spouting out, but still, how did he know what he was going to say? As the thought crossed his mind, a smug smile appeared on Flowey's face. Ah, that's right. You don't know what I'm talking about. I explained, but what's the point if you're just gonna die? Sans let out a cry of surprise and jumped back as a wave of white pellets shot at him, grunting as one of them grazed his arm. He gritted his teeth and held up his hand to pull Flowey from the ground. An uprooting should take care of the damn weed. His eye flickered as he realized it wasn't doing anything. A chilling laugh erupted from the flower. Is that your levitation trick? That only works on souls, moron. Another wave of pellets came at him, but this time he was ready, diving away without a hit. No soul? Glad you made no bones about it, he grunted. Was that a punt? Flowey was cut off as he assaulted by a wave of bones. Sans couldn't help but smile. He'd always wanted to say that. He shot off another attack before Flowey could regroup. As he prepared for the third, Flowey would let a cry. Mercy! Sans paused, eyes still glowing blue. And why should I spare you? He asked. Coldly, you just tried to kill me. And I'm really down you wanted me to Asgore for tea. Flowey took a few moments and said, You're the judge, right? You're supposed to judge me on everything I've done, not what happened right now. Sans frowned and said, Alright, fine. He held his hands out. I'm all ears. Tell me what you've done. With some difficulty, Flowey looked up at him with a ghost smile flickering on his face. It looked down again, pulled itself up, and looked at Sans' face with a wide, ghastly smile. Why didn't you pay attention this time around? What? Hey guys, a little heads up. I'm not repeating myself. This is part of the story. Why didn't you pay attention this time around? What? Something was off today. Sans lay in his bed for a few moments, trying to figure out what it was that felt so wrong. His room looked the same as it always did, even in the dark. He was still a skeleton. They were underground. He got up, switching the light button off his alarm as he did so. He didn't know what kept setting it. Why he kept setting it. He rarely slept anyways, and heading over to the room next door, ever so carefully, he opened the door and peeked in. He was greeted by a light snore as ascended forth an occasional "Neh-heh-heh-heh." The light from the hall showed a pair of bony feet sticking out over the edge of the mattress. Aside from needing a bigger bed, everything seemed fine in Papyrus' room. He shut the door to let his little brother sleep, then headed back to his room, but stopped halfway there. No, this was all wrong. Hadn't this happened before? Sans held his skull. This couldn't have happened before. He remembered it, but this was so much stronger than deja vu. He felt a chill crawl down his spine. Had something happened? Something he couldn't remember? He heard guards whisper to each other about how they felt like they were forgetting something, or that something strange was going to happen. But for the most part, they were shrugged off as a result of doing the same thing day after day. No one ever thought too seriously on it, but maybe now would be a good day to start thinking seriously. Something told him that whatever had happened put Asgore at risk. In the final defense before the throne, there was no way he could leave it be. He quickly got ready and went to the new home as fast as he could. He had to be there in case anything happened, and after that, he needed to go to someone who would be able to look into this. Maybe he already knew what was happening. He needed to go to Gaster.